every single one of our major customers and minor customers all shut their doors overnight.
You need the right people in the right place at the right time. And sometimes you have the right people in the right place, but at the wrong time.
I've got to keep going forward. I've got to keep looking for revenue streams. I've got to keep looking for growth, keep looking at new ways of doing things.
But, what's the culture like at the business? What do we stand for, the values?
I've got to tick that box on my personal development program I don't really want to be here.
Scaling up a business isn't easy. If it were, we wouldn't have less than 4% of businesses scaling beyond 10 employees or around £1 million turnover level, and less than 1% beyond 50 employees. But the contribution that we make as owner-managers to our economies is immense and should never be underestimated. Yet it can be a tough gig for all of us at times, and only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And through ScaleUp Radio, we aim to help make things a little easier. We interview guests who have been where you are now and may have faced some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked for them, as well as what didn't. And we've also combined many of the lessons from these interviews, and also through working with hundreds of owner managers over the last 10 years or so, into a practical scale-up handbook that we've called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System, or ESUS. And it's for owner managers like you and me as we navigate our own scale-up journey. And you can order a copy through your favourite online book retailer, or by going to all the W's, esusgroup.co.uk, www.esusgroup.co.uk. On this week's episode of ScaleUp Radio, I speak with Matthew Parsons of Surftech IT, and they provide managed IT services to businesses. And Matt was actually a guest on ScaleUp Radio back in 2019, and I've worked with him before then as well. And it's fascinating to see just how his company, but also Matt himself as a leader and business owner, have changed and developed over the intervening years. And we cover lots and lots of ground, including just a few things like the benefit of always investing back into the team, so always planning and working towards taking on that next member of staff, having that forward view. We also talk about how to deal with the challenge of always looking as to how to evolve in an industry that itself is ever changing. Also the knowledge that you're always selling and coming to that realization, whilst also then learning how to be a good salesperson, and why you should definitely think about packaging up your services, but don't over package. Keep the options simple, almost make your offering into a product. Obviously there is plenty in this conversation for business owners and leaders of businesses of any size, industry, and any stage that you're at in your scale up journey. So let's go across to Matt and hear his story. Welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. I'm here with Matthew Parsons of Surftech IT. Matthew, welcome.
Hi there.
Good. So, Surftech IT, there's a bit of a clue there, but what's it all about? What do you do?
We provide managed IT services to primarily businesses, really. Obviously, we have previously done schools, say My History, and also look at some charities as well, but primarily businesses, managing all elements of technology requirements from computers, servers, cloud-based systems, you name it, we pretty much do it, sort of thing, really, to a degree.
Okay, and what is it that makes you different? What makes Surftech IT different from other MSP providers that might be out there?
Yeah, it's always a difficult one, isn't it? I suppose to a degree, all companies like us will say the same thing. But so we've really got to focus on customer service. That is the one key element that we always make sure we strive in any way, which shape or form. And that's from the history for myself working in IT for so long. Is that's what our customers love about us, and that's how we've strived as an organisation, really.
And I think we've got an exclusive, haven't we? Can we? Is this the first podcast in which you can announce that something happened last week?
It's probably the first and only podcast, to be fair. But yes, we won Excellence in Customer Service in the 2022 Chamber of Commerce Awards in Herefordshire, Worcestershire. So yeah, really good achievement by myself and the team. So they're chuffed. about it as well. So it's really, really good.
And that adds real credence to what you've just said about customer service.
Yeah, definitely.
And you're a multi-award winner now, didn't you win the year before as well?
Yeah, so the year before we won the Micro Business of the Year Awards in the same Chamber of Commerce Awards. So again, all going in the right direction. We had some mega growth throughout COVID, really, and that comes from adapting. I think that's what also came through the Chamber Awards, is how we adapted to continue to grow, deliver services, adapt our service to meet the requirements of our customers as well, without doing so many on-site visits. So there's multiple things that we did, but yeah.
Brilliant. And Micro Business of the Year, micro is always that. I think it's a horrible term, but what they mean by that is under 10 employees, don't they? I think, is that right?
Yeah. So someone said to me, it's the Micro Business of the Year, so the teeny tiny business awards. Like, it's a horrible title, but yeah. So yeah, we're currently a team of 8, so we still fall within that micro side of the business, but soon I think into the small, which is the 10 plus to 100, it is a class as a small business when you as they approach these awards.
Yeah, I think it's one of those horrible government terms or whatever else. I mean, micro. If you've built a business with nine employees and you're turning over probably something around £1 million or whatever turnover, I don't think many of us would consider that to be micro.
Definitely.
But anyway, that's all of that aside. Huge congratulations. So you're around 8 people at the moment. Yeah.
Great. Yep.
And is there anything different, or maybe I should ask you the other way? How does the business model work for you? Is it around that managed service retainer model, or how? If not, how does business model work for you?
Okay, so from our perspective, it's all around recurring monthly payments, I suppose, around the IT support service side of things. So I've always said to an awful lot of companies, we don't start from zero every month. The beauty behind this organisation and this kind of business is that we always have an element of contracts going through with X amount of recurring revenue coming through. And so it's quite, relatively stress-free, if I can say relatively, but relatively stress-free as far as we constantly have our bills sort of covered from. So anything else we generate and as we grow, just as it continues to add to our revenue and to our bottom line and that sort of thing, really. So it's really, really good in that perspective. And also the tech sector is a great sector to be in, because there's always additional services that we can add on for the benefit of our clients, whether that be cybersecurity, telephony, internet connections, you name it, and sort of bolts on to the IT service world.
So it's a great sector in that it's fairly well accepted that there's a retainer type model within that, but it's not without its difficulties, is it? So we are one of the. How do you go about demonstrating the value on an ongoing basis, guys? Because one of the things that we all want from our IT system is that it just works, and we don't really notice it in a way, don't we?
Yeah. So that is probably the biggest battle that we have. If we're doing our job correctly, most people won't see us or hear about us. If they're calling us too much, they're wondering what they pay us for, and that's the same sort of argument. So everything that we do is around proactive support. So again, we're trying to avert disasters before they really become a problem, monitoring everything as much as we can, from backups to disk space to anything that really could cause a problem, so they get maximize their time and ability to do their job. So they're worrying about what's more important to them rather than worry about the IT and cybersecurity, disaster recovery, and all that sort of thing. Yeah. So yeah, it is a very saturated, business model, but business in general. There are lots of IT companies out there. We very early on took on the to build on our foundations, and we did ISO 27001 quite early on in our infancy, really, as well. We took on a lot of the big boys tools so we can compete with some of the bigger players within our industry as well. And again, core being calling up, speaking straight to a technician, not having to wait to be triaged through, or waiting 4 hours or anything like that. So the importance around dealing with people's problems while it's really causing them some issues.
And those are some of the things, presumably, that helped you to demonstrate your customer service for the awards, I'm imagining.
Yeah, definitely. I think the other side of this is, I've always said to clients, openly and honestly, I always appreciate constructive criticism. 9 times out of 10, if there's something that a client can benefit from us to do and do something better, we can look inwards and try and improve that. And that's why also we do video testimonials. We want people to see it to our customers, not just me writing something random on a web page, but see our customers talking positive about the service they receive, say, by us for their business, and see the benefits in it.
Very good. So what got you started in IT? Got you starting Surftech in the first place?
Okay, so Surftech, as if I go right back, I remember being at home. My dad had a 486. This is probably Chinese to a lot of people, but had a very old computer, 486, running Windows 3.1, and I managed to break it, being me. And I got told off by my dad at the time, and he took my computer around to a friend's house, and they managed to get it working again, told never to do that again. And so I think I started doing IT at, say, A level. My dad bought me my own computer, so I had my own computer in my room.
Right.
It's a 56k modems dialing up the internet, and Mom, get off the phone, I'm trying to download something. Sort of scenario. And that was sort of the start of it, really. And I've always been into IT and building computers, bits and pieces. And then when I finished my A levels, decided I'm going to start and work for somebody. And so I went for, worked for Evesham.com when it was around. And then I fell into the MSP world before it really became managed services, and also break fix IT solutions, really, whereby people would call up, would fix the problem, they'd go away, and they used to pay a support retainer based on that kind of service. Now it's all about the proactive monitoring side of things, with the internet being so freely available. So way back when, where now really expects to have their systems up as much as they can. Yeah. And I'd worked for a couple of different IT companies, and I just felt that because it's a very technical, technical thing that we ultimately do, and the solutions that we provide are relatively technical. If you don't work in that space, that generally you don't understand it well enough. And so someone can tell you absolutely anything, and you sort of go along with it the best will in the world, and can be misled to spending, parting with more money than you really need to. Right. And I've seen it on a few occasions, and it didn't really sit well with me as an engineer, going in doing solutions that I just felt weren't necessary. So I was given the opportunity to start up Surftech and provide solutions that I felt for the benefit of the business owner. The right solutions at the right cost that's going to help them grow. Ultimately, their growth and success is also our growth and success. So I think there's lots of synergies between ourselves and a lot of our businesses that we work with, in that manner. But ultimately, it started just to help people. I think I've done some various videos, and I honestly do really want to just help businesses get the best out of their IT technology, not overspend, pay the correct amount of money to receive the right level of service that's going to support them the best. Excellent. So was it literally a case of you started up on your own, you from your back bedroom or something like that, or how did? Yeah, I started off in my garage. Yeah. I had my daughter was on the way as well, so the added pressure of a baby on the way, and I got my first employee within 12 months. So John joined the team, 12 months in. So John was doing most of the telephone support, and I was out and about doing sales and doing the on-site infrastructure. We'd had a couple of clients who'd obviously followed me from previous roles, who obviously supported what we were trying to do, which was great. So we already had that sort of initial retainer sort of in place to help me support John more so than anything else. So, and it sort of just grew from there, really. So we started off the service, working out my garage. We then moved to the Civic in Stample, where we had a small office there, nice cheap rent, gave us a bit of a building base to sort of get going. After that, we took on Phil after we landed a large contract with a steel contractor, which was great. And it's sort of gone from strength to strength from there, really. So it's been a weird and wonderful ride. And as long as you've known me, Kevin, obviously with the wet-eyed look of, I can do that in so many years, it didn't quite pan out the way I'd planned it. But 7 years on, and we're still continuing to grow, and we've grown every single year since the day that we've been. And you've hit your latest 3-year plan in 2 years, didn't you? Pretty much. Yes, so we had a massive growth over the last financial year. So we grew by 45% the last previous financial year, which ended end of March. So yeah, it was all really positive stuff. But I think the secret behind the business has always been always invest back into the team. So even before we even needed a team member, also always planning for that route of growth is getting the next person on, get them bed in, take on the next clients.
Okay, so let's explore that, because I was going to ask you about the decision taking on the first employee, but let's look at that then. How do you decide when the time is right to take on your next employee?
It was really quite easy when initially to start with. I'd look at the monthly figures and see what we could support. Financially support in regards to employees, and I'd go, right, okay, we've got another £3,000 to £4,000 coming in a month. Right, let's get the next employee in so we can take on, another bigger client. So it's not all dependent on me providing the support. So as each number of clients went on, so when we got 5, we got another engineer. When we got another 5 on, we had another engineer. When we get to 10, 15 additional clients, we got another engineer. And so we've always been very tech heavy.
So do you do it by the number of clients or by the recurring income that they're bringing? Do you have a rule of thumb as to when's the time to start looking for the next new member?
It used to be by income. The business was very lean. I said that with regards to directors' remuneration over that period of time, there wasn't any. I'd rather invest it back into the team and keep building the staff up, because ultimately they're the ones who are going to deliver the service, and I can't be expected to do both roles. So yeah, I'd probably say it's changed an awful lot since. We've got a great team here now with a varying skill set, and we can deal with an awful lot more. We're looking at ways and using AI and automation to provide a better level of service to clients, to fix problems, automatically. That sort of thing to provide value to the clients.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird and wonderful. So yeah, I'm more into my figures now than I ever have been. But I think early on it was nice and simple. 5 clients paying £250 a month equal X. Right, that would support another person, and just keep on building upon that. And as we've got bigger, it's obviously just a bigger, more complicated machine, and obviously services are completely different now. The way that we work with vendors is very different now. So it's different world to 7 years ago.
Yeah. So, and it is a rapidly changing market. So there's a couple of questions there. How do you see where the market's going? What do you see as some of the big changes coming? But also, how do you keep on top of that as a business, or everything changing all the time?
I'd say it's the biggest difficulty within this space generally, and it's not all down to me either. Ultimately, a lot of the team have keen interests in tech themselves, so it's quite easy from that perspective. But you're completely right. There's a whole plethora of service. Do you do Azure for your cloud service? Do you use AWS? Do you go for a private cloud solution? Because again, that's something else that we do. Which service is right for your business? And they all come with different costs around them. Great example of that is we offered our own private hosted solution, which meant we bought the kit ourselves, and we rented that out to clients to have so much of the processing power, because we could do it more cost effective than the likes of Azure and AWS, and we had full control of it.
Yeah.
And so a big part of my worry was, as we grew, is not having full control over the service meant I couldn't guarantee the service to the client either. So I was dependent on Microsoft or Amazon to deliver that level of service. I was very much in the realm of, well, if their SLA is 4 hours and I can't do any more myself to fix the problem, then I'm stuck, and that's never where I definitely didn't want to be. So we provide a private cloud service again to provide better service to our more affordable service to our clients. So again, that's just one aspect of one thing that we did. And as far as keeping up with, technology in general, working with vendors, I think is key. I think I'll be honest that I probably used to hold vendors back quite a bit away from me, because I just felt they'd always kept trying to sell to me.
Yeah.
But we've taken on a new vendor recently, I say last 6 months, and the way they work with us is far more open. We meet monthly. They're telling us about new technologies that we should be looking at, other ways that we can provide benefits to our clients. And so different vendors work in different ways. And I think there's definitely, as a small business, and thinking back to when we grew, that probably should have been a relationship I should have looked at more, rather than thinking they're just trying to sell to me for the sake of selling.
Yeah. So, and when you say vendors, I mean, I think that's a term that's a bit more specific within the IT sector than maybe other sectors, but essentially your suppliers, they're the people that you're buying from for your, yes, they're an essential element of your service. You're reliant on them.
So distributors, as I say, is probably another better well-known term for it. They're software distributors who'll be reselling somebody else's software. Yeah.
So, okay. So working closely with them, but also what you've said is making sure you're not dependent on one of them in too big a way, and therefore hence you having your own servers and offering that service. Yeah. Very good. All right. So what do you love most about what you do?
I just like the fact of, I suppose, recognition and seeing that I actually helped, had a positive impact to someone's business. I think that is the biggest thing I love about this job. I'd say to a degree, and for those who don't understand it enough, all we deal with every day is problems. 9 times out of 10 is because something's not working, something's not working, and sometimes it can be a thankless task. But there's nothing better than sorting that task out for someone, and someone at the other end being so grateful that we've done what we could, reacted in a manner that, I'm very empathetic. I put myself in the same position as any business owner.
Yeah.
Is my server down? Yes. Well, we need to get it fixed because, it's the be all and end all. And so to be able to help people and get that recognition back from them that we've got them out of that sticky situation is great. And I think that's the bit I really, really love about this job most of the time.
Brilliant. Okay. Most of the time. So what is it then that drives you nuts?
Oh, nuts. Oh.
What do you hate most about what frustrates you most?
I think there's sometimes an expectation that IT should just work. And I think, I want people to make sure they value the service we provide to them rather than being being a bit of a stick to beat sort of scenario.
Yeah.
So that would probably be my biggest bugbear. We're always here to help, and I'd say to anybody regarding any situation. But we are people and human beings at the end of the day, so please don't beat us with a big stick.
Brilliant. Good. So what are some of those milestones then along the way? What going from that one person on your own through to the team, what some of the big inflection points do you think?
I think from my perspective, I've never been a natural salesperson. I wouldn't say. I'm very personable. I can talk to people. I can befriend people quite easily, and I'm as genuine as I possibly can be. I think if I was being honest and with a business hat on, I should have been more about the sales and really trying to grow the business. And I think we could potentially have succeeded all expectations of what we do now. I perhaps should know my numbers probably a bit better early on than just sort of winging it to a degree of another 5 clients as another employee. Yeah. But it's sort of it was all the right things to do in my head because it was just relatively simple. And going from being a technical engineer to running a business is 2 very different things. So I was always open to criticism and talking to someone like yourself, Kevin, and talking to my peers. I remember talking to Stu Avis and David Lyons about a particular thing I was going to do my website like 7 years ago about should I be selling things on my website, having a shop, and that sort of thing. And I didn't do it ultimately, but I remember just pinging ideas off people just to see what their reaction was, to see, okay, that's not such the best idea. What different avenues can I do? Yeah. I was always, I think it was just to be open to ideas. I think was the biggest thing that helps me as a business owner. None of us are, I think, get everything right. And I always say to everybody I work with, I think making mistakes is fine. And I think running a business, you're going to make mistakes as long as you learn from them is the key to my. If you make the same mistake twice, it's your own silly fault. Yeah. Ultimately, we all make mistakes, but as long as we learn from them, then that's fine. But I think, again, as we've grown, managing a team is very different to managing 3 people where I'm sat around them. Is very easy to manage. You can hear what's going on. Now we're spread across 3 offices. It's very different from one room to the next room to the other. So again, how we communicate effectively, make sure the team's on board with what we're doing, make sure there's no problems they need me to jump into. So
how do you do that? How do you keep your finger on the pulse with the team?
Oh, meeting rhythm is I think the key to our growth, and to make sure everybody knows what's going on. So I know the technical team, so I runs help desk. They do daily huddles to make sure they're all happy what's happened last week or what's happened yesterday and what needs to be dealt with this week. We do weekly catches up with the rest of the team, so they're aware of what's going on in regards to the company itself. What's our plan for this week and next week, and then we will do actually a general monthly one as well as an annual one where we'll go into figures, in fact, and go, this is the trajectory we're on. This is the turnover we've done. This is sort of the profit percentages that we're sort of talking about, and this is where we want to take the business. So they all feel they're moving forward with their own careers as well. Because again, if they don't feel they're moving forwards, then we have a different problem of retention in regards to staff. So there's all these problems that you don't think as a small business owner when you first start out that you're going to have. You think, right, I'm not going to keep the really good people unless I look after them. And I think everybody wants to feel like they're moving forwards. And I think everybody has their own motivations behind why they work, and it becomes a very different dynamic, doesn't it? In general, within every business as it grows. So, yeah, and I've always said to the team, as long as they invest into the business as much as I do, or they try and care about the business as I do, then everybody will reward along the way. And I think that's one of my core values to share with my team.
Okay. And you mentioned the values were there, and I was going to ask you, how do you decide whether somebody's a good potential employee to hire?
We've looked more into disc profiling, I'd say, to a degree, to make sure they're the right kind of people. We've made mistakes with hiring. We've made 2 mistakes previously with hiring. One was a really nice guy, just unfortunately didn't have the skill set. And again, and a recent one, I just really like IT in the nicest sense, obviously more of a junior engineer sort of role.
Right.
So didn't click with IT, and unfortunately he's left us. So it's different. Different choice. I'm very open and honest, and have a very open door policy when it comes to my team. I'll talk very frank with them. I want it to be an enjoyable place to work, and I don't certainly want to beat them just as I don't want to be beaten. So.
So with hindsight, maybe those 2 that didn't go quite as you had hoped, was this, what could you have done differently, do you think? Or was it just luck of the draw?
I would say, I think how we've hired previously is it's been people I've known. So I either worked with them previously or I've been, say it's a friend of a friend. And that's how we've got some of them and stuff. We've recruited through a recruitment agent before. We've had some success on that front. We have had one apprentice come through training with us and is now an employee. So I think it's been, I'd say, an element of luck throughout this process. Yes, I think as we move forward into 2023, our recruitment's going to be very difficult because, again, everybody wants IT people currently. Salaries for IT people, I think, obviously are changing and adapting, and skill sets are changing and adapting, and also we've got to invest in training and supporting our team. But yeah, I'd say to a degree, I potentially would say it's luck, but in some cases we've gone down the right avenues with recruitment agents and they've asked the right questions and probed us.
Do you have a particular favourite question that you like to ask candidates that you think weeds people out, or an exercise you get them to do?
We do run through an element. I say most people who we recruit obviously are technical.
Yeah.
So we do have a bit of a technical questionnaire, and I'll run through some basics.
Right.
What's the port number for receiving email, that sort of thing, just to see if they know some of the basics. So it's not there to sort of weed them out as such, but to just make sure they know what they say they know.
Yeah.
I'd say in regards to the kind of person they are, I've actually, to be honest, I haven't never thought about that question. I probably should do more, but I've never ultimately thought about a question. I've always gone off their mannerisms and how they talk, and that sort of stuff to be able to follow my guts more so than anything else, I think.
Yeah. Okay, very good. So in terms of the people side, then we've talked a little bit about the recruitment, but also about then how you keep control, or how you manage the team as it's grown. And from a strategic aspect, how did you decide early on whether, because one of the challenges that often people have in the very early days is getting the pricing right. How did you manage to, and also then the positioning of the business with the, what kind of sectors, clients, whatever that you're going for. So take us back to some of those thinking in terms of what you got right and maybe what you got wrong.
Yeah, definitely. I think the one thing that came to my mind as well, so what you were saying, that Kevin, is ultimately, I think when we first started out, and I used to have this idea that not all IT support provided to customers is the same for all clients. I thought, well, it's got to be a bit of mix and match. So to provide them with that ultimate value, they're going to want a different level of service from customer A to customer B, and customer B wants something different to customer C, and so they'd all have different services, different levels of support. However, as we've grown and as we're looking to scale up more, is doing that doesn't actually allow us to scale very well, because from the team's perspective, it's very confusing because they don't know the level of support that each customer has. It's not ring fenced right. They're in the, an awful lot of IT providers, probably the same for us to a degree, is to start falling into packages. So then you have your bronze, silver, your gold, and your platinum. Or your good, better, best is another way of sort of talking about it. And each customer will fall into one of those sort of pockets, and they'll get that level of service to that pocket. And if they want to move up in level of service, they just move from good to better, and then better to best based on the level of service. And then the team knows straight away that they're receiving that level of service. And I didn't think about that when we were sort of in our infancy at all.
Yeah.
And thinking about it now, that's a model we're looking to change, to make things easier for the team, so they know exactly what service they should provide to that particular client. And it's the same around, obviously, we want to try and start pushing out best practice. So we're talking about cybersecurity more. And so part of some of our packages now is cyber essentials.
Yeah.
Just because that's where we want to see where our clients, we want to protect them. So we want them to have the bare basics. So again, we're trying to parcel in, packaging some of the things that we really think make it critical to their IT support provision, more so now than ever, is to have additional few services as part of that package. Yeah. Rather than saying no to that one, this is what you're going to have.
Yeah, I think very good. I think that's a really key lesson, especially in the service sector, in that it's so easy to get sucked into that trap of over customizing our service for individual customers, and then, as you say, you just find that then it's just literally money for time, and you can't get out of that unless you find a way to do what you've done. But that's the same in many service industries, is finding a way to try and make it more of a product in a way than with the service packaged around it, but it's almost making it into a product.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. All right. And what about cash wise? I mean, you've got great business by the sound of it, with steady cash flow, with the recurring revenue. It's predictable. That's all great. And then you get a huge customer that comes and says, I want to change all of my servers, and in one big hit. How do you manage the cash flow requirements of that?
Oh, so I still remember, very early on, when I was just, I think it was just two of us, just myself and John, and we'd won an order for £80,000 of servers and kit. We had one particular client who said, I don't want anything cloud. Right. I couldn't convince him. He didn't want to go down that route at all. Didn't want subscription services.
Got to be able to touch it and tap it. Yeah.
yeah. And I can see why. I can see to a degree why. So we're going back about 5 years or so ago, and at the time I said I don't have £80,000 in my back pocket to go. Yeah, we're going to buy this server. And we worked at the time. We did an awful lot of. That's what we still do. An awful lot of Dell equipment, and we did have a £30,000 credit limit with Dell.
Okay.
However, that still didn't cover the cost of the. We took on 30-day terms, but still didn't cover the cost. I was very lucky that I had my father-in-law to support me financially, to help me out while I was doing this particular order. We'd do 50% up front with the client, which is one thing that we'd always do to make sure we secure the order, gives us some cash flow. Okay. Yeah. But I'm still £40,000 away from being able to seal the order. And we didn't have that kind of credit limit like we do now. So yeah, it was through the help of my father-in-law ultimately that sort of lent me the money short term until that order was processed and done and in that we finally got paid for it. Now, again, coming back to distributors and vendors or suppliers, whatever we want to call them, we have lines of credit in place whereby we get 30 days end of month. We've always done 50% up front, trying to ease our cash flow as best we can. And we know exactly where we stand with those suppliers. We know exactly when they're going to be taking out that money. And generally, the most, say, key distributors within there, when you hit certain credit limits, they give you more. So you hit 40,000, they give you 50,000 next time. Hit 50,000, they give you 75,000 next time. And it just carries on going. So the more you spend with them, the more they're willing to do it. It's all on direct debit. We've got a great credit score with them. So they're going to get paid. So again, managing that is key. It's relatively easy most of the time, apart from when you get a whole load of successive orders. 3 servers this month, so the following month, and then we end up then looking at some from a P&L perspective. Is that we're then seeing different, say, cost sectors between different, say, purchases and sales all fall out of line. So we could say we're making a loss one month and actually the money's coming the following month. So again, it's being aware of these things that probably as a naive business owner at the very beginning, I didn't even think twice about it. Just get it in, get paid, next thing. Again, as we're growing, the importance behind that and managing that with VAT quarterly as well has its challenges, because we're not talking small figures like we used to be. We're talking tens of thousands of pounds in some cases, whereby could easily catch you out. So it's I think
so how
knowing your figures is key.
What sort of practical things have you done then to make sure you don't get caught out and forget, we've got this huge VAT bill and suddenly catch you by surprise or something? What sort of things do you do?
The biggest thing we did, because I used to do quite an awful lot of my own bookkeeping, so I'd always be behind. It's always the same way, isn't it, with every business owner? I'll do it tomorrow and get bogged down with something else, and then you got 109 items to reconcile, and you don't quite know where your cash is at this point. You're looking at the bank and it looks okay, and so we did get a bookkeeper to obviously help with that, to make sure we're streamlining as best we can. I've got an admin assistant that's making sure the invoices and things are processed to make sure all that's up to date, so we're never overpaying or underpaying on VAT. Making sure again we're following a process as far as getting deposits from clients for large orders to make sure we don't end out of pocket, that sort of thing. We do have an overdraft facility. We've never had to use it, but it's there as a safety net in case we ever did. And we're looking, I might open a complete can of worms now, but we are looking to start following profit first. As a methodology within the business.
Mike Michalowicz, profit first. Yep.
Yeah. So that's something we're due to do a bit more around and understand it a bit more. And obviously it's around remuneration for work and not spending above and beyond ultimately.
Okay.
But,
very good. All right. Excellent. So in order to keep control then of the business, what are the key measures, maybe a handful of measures that you really want to see that are in the right ballpark? What do you look at that drive your business?
Are we sort of talking KPIs?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. The biggest thing I've been looking at more so is in more quarterly P&L. Is more so I'm looking at, because that's skew in regards to how we pay suppliers and bits and pieces. From one month to the next, it can look scary in some cases, but I'm also looking at those quarterly numbers more so than anything else, making sure we're generating the profit that we should be, making sure anything that needs to be moved from one month to the next month or between quarters does move, so we get a good idea on where our figures are at.
So you've got management accounts essentially.
Definitely.
Okay.
So looking at management accounts, I say all the time. We also have access to a piece of software called Fluidly, which brings figures in from zero and gives us a cash flow forecast that we can adapt and mold based on upcoming costs. So we can always see where our cash flow is at, really. Again, for our business, it's a nice place to be. But I think for the business where do I start from zero, it's probably a bit of a scary place to be with regards to cash flow. So again, I think utilising something whereby it's helping with your cash flow and doing a bit of AI or calculations within it is always beneficial.
Okay. And are there any particular measures like that drive efficiency or profitability that you like to keep an eye on?
We keep an eye on it as far as the calls that come in. So from a help desk perspective, and again, coming right back to customer service, I suppose, regardless of our KPIs, how many calls we're taking, how many tickets we're taking, and what that sort of looks at from a ratio of tickets per staff member.
Okay.
So do we need more resources? How much time are they taking on tickets? We also look at it from a perspective of, one client may pay £4,000 a year, but the amount of time they call up actually makes them a non-profitable client. So the software that we use in the back end, so we use a product that's specific for our industry that helps monitor tickets and time against contracts. And then we can work out, is that client profitable or not based on the contract they're paying and the time that we're spending. And we can do it down so the cost of engineer A is
right
£30 an hour. So we can be quite granular with it. So we can work out if contracts are profitable or not, as well as efficiencies around time for engineers. Can we take on more customers as well? So I think it's the key to our next phase in our growth is going to be around, making sure we got our efficiencies right, and making sure we got our processes correct to sort of get these numbers right as well as analysing those clients and see if they're profitable or not ultimately.
So you're tracking your technicians' utilization rate essentially. How do you get them? Because not engineers aren't normally known as being the kind of people that love to fill in paperwork and reports and things like that. How do you get them to do that so that your figures are reasonably accurate?
Yeah, I suppose I've always tried to I'm always happy as long as we get about 80% in there. Now, I suppose we sometimes struggle, I have to admit, trying to get them to log the time correctly. It's something we constantly keep on bashing them about in regards to logging time. And it's not so much to hold them accountable. As long as they're doing the job to a degree, I'm a happy man. It's more so, again, from my perspective, is resource. So when they come to me and go, Matt, we've got too much work on.
Yeah.
Well, the figures don't tell me that. So unless you log your time, I can't think, right, I need the next engineer now because you're at 80%, because you've suddenly gone from logging 50% of it to suddenly logging 80%, and that's because you're not following through the process. So we've spent quite a bit of time actually probably the last 6 months really trying to nail down our efficiencies and what our expectation regards to the process within support and within sales to make sure we're going through the right bits and pieces. But we can create reports around absolutely everything within the system. So we try and incentivize them. Again, we've got a customer service charter that we adhere to, and we've got a customer service champion award that we try and do monthly. So the person who logs the most tickets with the most time, with the best feedback, will generally get a reward of some distinction. To help incentivize them also to do what we need them to do.
Very good. And how does that go down within the team?
I think it goes down relatively well.
Yeah.
It's always a difficult balance, isn't it, as well? Because I think we've got some senior engineers who don't spend that much time doing tickets because they're out and about doing more of the other work. And I often say, ultimately, the feedback we have from clients trumps everything. If I get an absolute golden star review regarding the service you've delivered, fantastic. They spent the time and effort, they're filled in the survey. So we do surveys after every ticket. And we do the same after every install, and we get obviously reviews based on the performance of engineers. So again, it's a great accolade for them and to show they're going in the right direction.
As long as you've got the profitability in mind as well, and we don't have what did we have at one of our calls the other day? Somebody spent on their customer help desk, spent 20 minutes justifying a £1 or querying a £1.50 price rise or something. Might have got away with a very happy customer, but 20 minutes on the
I can only imagine ultimately. I think in the best of intentions, I think most small businesses do have customer service at one of the top of what they're trying to do. Ultimately, they're doing it for a reason because they want to help with cleaning or whatever the service they're delivering, but they're generally doing it because they want to try and help people.
It is, and also, and I suspect this, and we'll touch on this with the next question. Really, obviously that helps from the referral rate very much, and that's what we're all striving for. Is really delighted customers that are happy to introduce us to somebody else that might also become a great customer. So what if I haven't led that question too much, what have you found are your most effective ways of finding new customers, generating new customers?
95%, if not 99% of all our business comes from referral.
Right.
We do all the sort of farming activities that you'd expect a company like us to do, but we also do a lot of social proof. We're working on Google reviews. We've got 45 5-star Google reviews. We've got 6 or 7 video case studies from clients who've been willing to spend the time to do that for us, to show the level of service. I don't think clients take that lightheartedly to jump in and do a case study on video. And I think it proves a valuable point to people looking at our services. And again, I think it also helps give that, what would be the word? Reinforce the fact that ultimately you can refer with confidence in our services, because people rave about the service that we do. So so most of it comes through referrals more so than anything else. I think as we look to grow, that'll probably need to change, but for the moment, it works quite well for us. And
is there anything particular that you do? Do you just wait for the referrals to happen, or is there anything particular that you do to encourage them with your clients?
I would say we do need to incentivize them more. I have to be honest. We do need to do more around referrals. So no, it actually, in all fairness, they naturally seem to come. Yeah. We should be having again, one of our, as all business owners, we've got this master plan, but we should be doing definitely more around referrals and asking our clients who rave about us for referrals to anybody who would benefit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely something we need to do more of. I've always felt a bit awkward always asking that question. I think many people do. And I think back to, I did some Sandler training once upon a time. And he said, well, if you start with that contract right at the beginning, do you mind if I come back after 6 months and ask you for a referral if you feel you're confident enough with the service we delivered? And I think that is something, we should definitely do. But I think to a degree, most clients know us incredibly well, and most clients would feel comfortable referring us. Yeah. In general,
and then obviously with your constant growth is giving testament to that. And you mentioned your master plan. So one of the questions I always love to ask is if you and I were having this conversation in 5 years' time, what has to have happened for you to consider those 5 years a success?
It can come more as an awkward time from my perspective. It's quite funny. So I think my target potentially 10 years time would be nice to have a £10 million turnover business. It's a very different beast.
Yeah.
But now I can keep my same core values. The other side of me says keep it nice and controlled and smaller with 20 employees, say turning over 2.5 million, say. Yeah. So I think it's going to be really suck and see and see how the business grows. I think comfortably would be 20 odd employees, shooting for the stars, a £10 million business. I actually came from talking to a distributor again, said, why for 2.5? You've gone through this great growth and you're doing all the right things. So why stop at 2.5 million when just keep on going? So I'm like, yeah, I get that, and I'd love to reach more people. And I think if you remember when I spoke to you, Kevin, when I was first starting out, I want to be a European-wide IT service provider, and I had very big plans, not realizing how difficult actually running a business, as they can be. So yeah, lots of learning throughout my journey so far.
Okay, and what do you think is going to? Do you think that's going to be through organic growth, that you're better do that? You were talking about needing other aspects to your referral marketing, or how do you see that happening?
Yeah, I think if we're going to grow to the levels that I wanted to grow, it's not going to be organically in the nicest of senses. It's just not going to happen in the same time period. To be fair, I think we've been lucky along the way that we've got some great clients on board with us who really believe in the core values and the service that we deliver them. I think for us to grow will be a sales team, account management team, so whatever you want to call them, whether they're part of the same beast or not.
Yeah.
But sort of having them in line with our core values and having in line with what our aim and goal is to provide, the right solution for the right customer at the right price, that being the forefront of what we do for them. So I have no doubt at some point we'll become an element of a sales manager role and an account management team in there and to upsell, cross-sell, and find new business out there.
Yeah,
so I think it's an exciting time, really.
Yeah, very good. And it's a great industry, isn't it? Good thing about it. One good thing is customers are reasonably sticky. They stay for a while, but of course that has the flip side of the coin, in that it's therefore a little bit hard to find new clients. It's not that easy, is it? Yeah,
and everybody does everything differently as well. You have to think, you've got clients. Some IT providers do month-to-month contracts, others do quarter-to-quarter, others do 1 year, others do 3 years, others do 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody quotes everything differently.
Right.
They'll package it up in so many different ways and call it something different. And I think that's the problem behind the IT sector. They've brought out new legislations around cyber essentials to help businesses protect themselves from cyber threats. And I believe, if we're following anything like the US, is at some point there will be a IT legislation that holds IT companies more so accountable around the service they deliver to make sure they're protecting them and not mis-selling things that they're not doing. So I think there's going to be an awful lot of changes in the IT industry. And I think the biggest danger to a business, I suppose, like me and any IT business, is if we don't change and adapt for the environment we're in, we're going to get left behind, and there won't be much of a business left for us because we're not adapting to the needs of what our clients need us to do. Yeah. And cloud's going to be a big part of that. And as soon as it becomes more cost effective, you'll see again trends change as well.
Brilliant, good. Well, I think we've had some really good advice from you. Couple of sort of quick fire questions just to wrap up with. I like to ask most people. So, if you were to go back to your younger days, maybe when you started Surftech IT, what advice would you give yourself then, or maybe what would you do differently?
I'll do it sooner.
Do it sooner, right? Okay.
I think ultimately, I think there's a little bit of, I suppose, I'm just trying to think of the word, risk averse. I think an awful lot of say younger generation who are so risk averse that they don't want to start a business. And I think everybody just needs to consider it as an opportunity for them. I think there's so many opportunities out there for small businesses that I think it's a great, running a business and running it the way you want to run it is fantastic. And I think an awful lot more people need to get over the hump of doing business for themselves and take a leap of faith and back themselves, really.
Good. Another question around, any particular, I mean, you're obviously in the IT world, but are there any particular apps or bits of software that, from a small business perspective, that you think have been really useful to you?
Yeah, we use ClickUp here to manage our tasks and to share objectives with the team. That can either be around client tasks or internal projects that we're running. So it tends to be really good. I think the other thing I'd consider for any industry is find potentially a tool that's specific to your industry.
Right.
I think there's a lot of tools out there. Don't spend money on trying to do something someone's already done.
Okay.
So there's tools out there to already help you. And obviously a CRM system is also really good as you start building your pipeline and email communications. And so we also use ActiveCampaign for part of that as well.
Okay, ActiveCampaign, brilliant. Any particular books or podcasts that made a difference to you?
All my podcasts to a degree are very IT related, though I was listening to, and I have been listening to for a while, James Sinclair.
Okay.
He does have an online business called Entrepreneurs University, but he does a great podcast where he interviews for 30 minutes different business owners around their challenges and sort of tells them what they need to do to achieve. So there's some really great insights for all various sectors on how to create a profitable enterprise rather than a profitable job sort of he drills into people. And apart from that, I do read an awful lot of autobiographies to see how other people have paved their own way. So that could be from Richard Branson, Alan Sugar, Duncan Bannatyne, those sorts of things, from where they've gone from nothing to generating and taking some extreme risks along the way. So
very good. Excellent. Good. Well, I think that just about concludes us for today. Thank you, Matt. Thank you very much for your time and for sharing so openly some of your thoughts. If people would like to get hold of you or Surftech IT in general, what's the best way for them to do that, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. So also you can go to our website, www.surftechit, that's surftech.co.uk. All our contact details on there, from telephone numbers and things. But feel free to reach out. We're happy to give obviously no application quotes or advice, whatever people need, really.
Brilliant. And congratulations once more on your award success.
Thank you very much.
Lovely. Matt, thank you very much for being my guest today on ScaleUp Radio. Don't forget to take a look at www.bizsmarts.co.uk to access a great range of resources to help you in your scale-up journey. So that's bizsmarts.co.uk, which is bizsmarts.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.